Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for joining us on this lovely Monday evening. It is November 29th. My name is Sean Phillips. I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Andy Van Beber, and our guest today, Mr. Matthew Edelman. We are the Voice of Reason podcast. Gentlemen, how are you two doing
I don't
this
know
evening?
can we really still call him a guest? I mean, he's kind of like part of their furniture now. So, I mean,
I feel like a guest should come with perks, and I have yet to get any of those, gentlemen. Except for the pleasure of your company, of course.
of course, yes, right.
Gentlemen,
Yeah, guests come with perks. You just come with perky nipples. There's a
Thank you.
substantial.
But he is wearing a hoodie though. So,
Yeah.
and since
He's
we're on
keeping them covered.
if we're
PG
talking,
show.
I would like to say though, Sean, that if we are talking about perks,
Mhm.
let's just share with our viewers while we're early on here the latest version of Matthew's marriage tips tonight, though, hosted by
Please.
his beautiful wife Amanda. Let's
boy.
let's just take a listen here.
Life goes.
Hey guys, happy Thanksgiving. And here is another one of our marriage tips. Several of you have asked for a marriage tip from me. So here's my marriage tip. Ladies, get yourself a gas fairy. Yeah, a gas fairy. So what the gas fairy does is the gas fairy just magically appears and he just gets me gas whenever my car is, running low. So, but the gas fairy didn't exactly read my mind. Shocking, right? It's supposed to be like your sixth sense or something. It's what husbands are supposed to do.
There's no gas fairy. I put gas in your car, and you didn't tell me, and now it's Thanksgiving night.
Yeah, but you're supposed to just read my mind. That's what husbands do.
Thanksgiving night, and now we're down to 5 miles before we're out of gas.
Yeah, we have 5 miles
To go.
till E.
Yeah.
So, and that's because the gas fairy failed. The gas fairy didn't read my mind. So,
The gas fairy is not good at reading a woman's mind, or really any nonverbal anything
miles.
about women. Now we're at 4 miles.
And we're just sitting in the car.
Yeah.
all right.
Have that much
So,
money.
all right. So here we are. All right.
At the
Bye.
gas station.
Bye, gas fairy.
Oh, I need your money. I didn't bring any money. I didn't bring any money.
Are we back to this one again?
I need your credit card. Oh, wait.
Ladies, get yourself a guy who got money.
All right. Now he needs my credit card. All right, y'all. Happy Thanksgiving.
Oh, and there we go, Amanda Edelman. Everybody, that is a woman who deserves just great sainthood right there.
I'm sure the ladies in
Big
your
time.
life would never, accuse you of any kind of thing like this, of anticipating that her car would need gas when you
Oh no.
need it. I'm going to start another video series soon. Things I've apologized to my wife for today, and it's going to be like for example, it would be like not knowing her car was almost out of gas when I don't drive it. Those kinds of things. Somehow, I get blamed, but I never do have my wallet on me because it's always in my car. I leave it in my car.
Oh my God.
So I often go places and don't have money on me.
Oh, that I tell you what,
Been there.
that always brightens my day whenever I see that, and that is that's good stuff. How was your guys' Thanksgiving?
Good. How about you guys?
Well, I was telling Matt earlier, we haven't had Thanksgiving yet. We usually celebrate with my brother-in-law, but the kids finally came off of COVID quarantine yesterday, and the Pike County COVID Ferry, being what it is, at the health department, even though my kids didn't have any symptoms or anything else like that. I apologize to the Pike County Health Department people for being so snarky with them over the last couple of weeks and being an a-hole and everything. And so, but she's like, oh, it's okay. We have people who, blah, 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 and all this stuff and everything. I'm just like, well, I'm sorry. So I had to eat crow and it. But no, we'll have Thanksgiving this coming Saturday, so it'll be good.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah. I went over to my in-laws' house. We had Thanksgiving / my son's 12th birthday, which is Thursday this week, but I won't have him. So we did it Thanksgiving meal, and then for the dessert was the birthday cake. And then we nearly didn't make it home afterwards because of the gas thing, but it was good.
Sean, what did you guys do?
Nice. We drove on down to Kansas City. We did Thanksgiving with Tony's family. Did some Black Friday shopping. Actually, on Friday, when I was when I was in high school and college, so Thanksgiving for me was always we kind of did it early after my sister pretty much, since the very beginning of her high school and then all the way up until now, has always kind of done Thanksgiving with us. Then they leave and do her boyfriend at the time, then fiance, now husband's family Thanksgiving. So our Thanksgiving was always wrapped up early. So if I was like, hey, I want to go shopping, and back in the day, it used to be, super early Friday morning, and then it got moved to, midnight, and then it got moved to 6 p.m. on Thursday that stores were opening up. And so that's when I would go do my Black Friday shopping. But, now that once COVID hit last year, I think a lot of stores were just like, yeah, screw that. We're done opening up at 6 o'clock.
And I applauded that. I applauded that greatly.
And it was nice. Like it was kind of funny because, there was a couple stores I definitely wanted to hit just because they're good gift buying stores. Like I can knock out a couple different people in one spot. And so some of the stores opened up at 7, and then we went to like an outlet mall, and it kind of trickled into other times where different stores opened up. But it wasn't bad. The lines weren't like crazy bad. I mean, no one was fighting. No one got shot where I was at over,
Well, I was going to ask you,
TVs.
I didn't go out. So I didn't go out. Was some of the report that I read an article in USA Today saying that there was not a lot of like earth shattering, a lot of stuff that was, did you see any of that? I mean, or did you?
So the big thing with Black Friday usually is electronics. Electronics are like the big things that they push. But if you look at supply chains in a lot of these Asian countries that develop a lot of those things, they're having supply issues. I honestly couldn't tell you. This might be a total shot in the dark, but I'm wondering if some of the port issues they had in Egypt are raining effect. Is like, because you got to think a lot of these blockbuster deals, right? For a lot of these electronics that you see that they drop super cheap are typically last year's or the year before even's model, like leftover, been in the warehouse. Let's
get rid of it.
Let's get rid of it. So they have these things usually planned out for quite a while. So, I mean, who knows? Like one of the weirdest things I saw, like Kohl's. Kohl's usually has a bunch of like real cheap electronics, a lot of usually home cheap electronics. But what I noticed was this year, like you could get them quote unquote cheap. So they had like waffle makers, a bunch of other crap for like $5. But the catch was you paid $20 at the store, and then you sent in a $15.
Oh, pull the Menards on you.
Like like rebate kind of deal thing. So, no, and even like looking at TVs and stuff like that. Like I didn't need nor want a TV this year, but I always just like to look and to see what is available or what sales are going on, see if there is anything earth shattering. And I mean, nothing really. I think the best deal I saw this Black Friday, I think there was a 70-inch Vizio 4K TV for like $368.
That's not too bad. But while we're at it, let's mention that it is Cyber Monday. And if you do scroll down, if you're watching us on Facebook or whatever you're watching us on, if you scroll down into the description, you will see a link to AmericanTraditionalCoffee.com, where they do have a wide variety of merch, and you can shop there. Some great gifts on there, and also visit the other one, Van Bibber and Son DJ Services. And also, I wanted to show off we've had Calamity's Rain on before. I actually
that's a cool shirt. I was wondering what that was.
So visit our pal Charlie Tadlock, calamitiesrain.com, and he has, I mean, a lot of stuff. I mean, he's got everything from shirts, hoodies. I think I saw some, what do they call those certain kind of cups that have I can't think what they're called now.
Like the old blender bottles or whatever?
Yeah.
Like so, a shaker cup?
Yeah, so definitely check that stuff out. So, what do you guys, there's a lot of stuff going on I guess we can touch on this week, but what's your guys' thoughts on this new variant that they're reporting on?
Well, I can tell you from someone who works in a hospital, it's caused a lot of concern among the healthcare workers at the hospital that I'm at, and we've already started to see our COVID numbers go up. Last week we were about 21 COVID patients, and this week we're at 34, and there's every anticipation that it's just going to keep climbing. I think there's some emotional fatigue of, this is Groundhog Day again, with another variant around. But this one feels a little scarier than some of the others, just because it seems to be, from what we think thus far, more transmissible, and the vaccine, may or may not be as effective against it. Although I had seen a video by a scientist who studies COVID-19, and he said whether or not the vaccine will be as effective against this new variant will take a couple of months to really determine. But just to see the other countries starting to limit travel and things so quickly, I think has all of us at the hospital really concerned about it.
Well, a couple of things, and Sean I'll just say what I found some facts, what I've known. There is a team of scientists from 7 universities and I guess the ground zero for this is in South Africa. They said they're working to learn more about the variant, studying 100 whole genomes of the mutation. The variant was first identified in Botswana earlier in November. The variant has a high number of spike mutations that could affect transmissibility, like you said, Matt, transmissibility and immune response. It has also been found, they found the variant also in Hong Kong. The new variant is considered the most significant one yet, and scientists are working to see if it renders vaccine less effective. One scientist, I caught this off of the BBC's website, described the mutation as horrific. Then let's see here, anything else I had. So, and the World Health Organization met, I believe it was last Friday, to determine if the mutation is a variant of interest. So, yeah, I like what you said. Groundhog all over there. Sean, what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, this one's an interesting one, because for the longest time, I know for a lot of folks there was kind of an eye roll when it came to when swine flu was a thing back in the day. I remember how they had kind of talked about like some of the different variants that might have came after the original like H1N1 or whatever it was. I just remember when in school, they made it sound like there was about to be this next wave, and then we didn't see it. And COVID's a bit different, where it seems like some of these variants are, I think the difference in each one can be quite alarming for some people. I'll be interested to see how states kind of crack down on it as more data becomes available. I will say it's the first time in about a month I've heard anything out of Fauci's mouth, so that was interesting.
Yeah.
He had kind of gone a little quiet after the whole Beagle medical lab situation that the rights wanted to roast him for and go to town on him. And so yeah, it was, and in seeing him come out, I also read the article and did some other digging of information that he is the highest paid government employee that we have right now. Interestingly enough, at $479,000, something like that per year. Yeah, wow. To not include book sales, to not include probably the investments in Moderna and Johnson & Johnson that he had, kind of had in place beforehand. But yeah, I learned that and kind of seeing that he was back. So,
well, some of the things.
Oh, it'll be.
Yeah, and some of the today, of course, President Biden released a statement today. Said his administration's working with imagine this: Pfizer, BioNTech, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson for contingency plans if needed. He also said that it's not something to be. How did he say it? It was he said it's not something to be panicked about, but to be concerned about.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, one thing that. And of course, I said last week when I was or 2 weeks ago when I was sharing about my COVID. I mean, Matt, in your hospital, do they offer the monoclonal infusion thing?
Yeah, if you're within a particular window. Excuse me, when you come in, and I don't exactly know the guidelines, but you have to be within a certain. I think it's a number of days. It might be a number of hours upon onset of symptoms, but if you come in beyond a certain window, they don't do it.
Well, and I said this to Sean a couple of weeks ago that I don't know why. I mean, I guess I just haven't. I never heard until I didn't know that this thing existed until I had it, and I'm like, why aren't they talking more about this? Because I'll be truthful. Within 24 hours, I felt right as rain. And it was, of course, and that's the other thing, too. I believe that people are going, and this is what I'm afraid about, and I bet you your people probably there at the hospital worried about, because it took, I don't know, when you guys first started seeing your first Delta variants, but I mean, within, when the day that I was tested and was positive, we had 7 other kids in our school who tested positive. And I know a lot of those kids were vaccinated like myself.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, my concern with this, and tell me what you guys think, my concern is people are going to just kind of, all right, well, here we go again. how do you think people are going to, and this is something apparently that's more serious. How do you guys think that people are going to view this?
So I think that that by and large, the people who are vaccinated, we're always going to get vaccinated, and those who are not by this point are not going to be. The only thing I think that changes the calculus on that is if there's a variant that comes through that is significantly more deadly than what we've seen before, and we start seeing again. Great swells of casualties and fatalities from this, then I think it will scare people into getting vaccinated. Whether or not that will be enough to, really say we are turning the corner on this pandemic, I'm not as sure. But I think it has to be deadly enough that the disinformation campaign is not as effective, not reaching the people just because of the statistics of fatalities.
Mm-hmm. John, what about you?
Yeah, I agree with Matt with what he said about people that aren't vaccinated probably will not get vaccinated unless they find themselves in a situation again like where work dictates or mandates come out that are a lot more strict. based on travel, based on a plethora of different things. So, I mean, yeah, it's at this rate. I'm sure the world's just waiting to see how many variants we're gonna go through, but again, I think part of the issue, and I think maybe it's just because people are in their own bubble, but if I look around, like in my world, and again, my world's a lot different than Matt's world, so I'm sure that Matt, working in a hospital, probably sees people dying daily of COVID. It's kind of just what I think. I think people have kind of been cooped up for so long, and pretty soon, eventually, people that are vaccinated are already tired of people that aren't vaccinated, and then people that aren't vaccinated are already tired of feeling bullied by people that are vaccinated. So
I just want to apologize real quick there. We did have a little bit of a technical difficulty there. I believe we're back online now, so sorry for everybody who missed that. But we are back online now, so sorry about that. But continue.
Oh, good. Matt was still able to nod at everything I was saying, so at least I had one person I knew that was listening.
Oh, good.
So yeah, I definitely think the next couple of months, I really think 2022 is going to be fairly interesting, especially during the winter months, because we're not even at the cold yet, and we know allegedly how these respiratory viruses can be pretty bad during winter months. So
yeah,
is this what I mean? So I pretty much think that we can say that this is the new normal. I mean, I hate to say it like that, but for us to be able to, I think there's that, like you said, Sean, there's that group of people who have just had enough, and Matt talked about all the misinformation, but I think people are, I'm afraid of people just go ahead and just tossing caution to the wind and just saying, screw it, we're going to go ahead and just, if, I haven't gotten it yet, so I'm not going to get it. And out here in the rural areas, we hear that a lot. To tell you the truth, fellas, I'm terrified about going back to school tomorrow because everybody has been out. So everybody's been to grandma's house, grandpa's house. We've been to Aunt Susie's house, and now we're bringing it all. But at the same time, we can't. I see the other side of it though too, that we can't continue to live just in a tiny little box and just hope that everything's just going to go away,
Yeah. I feel like, Sean, you talk about how experience plays into your perceptions of COVID. And this is playing out right now within my family who live in rural Iowa. That's where I'm from. And we usually get together for Christmas. We meet halfway. We usually meet in St. Louis. And my family, I live in Louisville, for those who don't know. So we meet halfway. And that's about the only time that I get to see my side of the family. Most years. That's the one time. This year, I sent out a text to my brother and my sister, and I said, hey, if Marshall, who is my nephew, he just turned 18. I said, look, if he's not vaccinated, it would sure be great if he was vaccinated before Christmas, because my son turns 12 next week, and we were waiting for him to turn 12 so he could get the adult size dosage of the vaccine. But he won't be fully vaccinated by the time Christmas rolls around. So it would be great. And I know everyone else in my family has been vaccinated. And I mean, it's been crickets from my family ever since. And part of that I know is because in their rural area, they're looking at me saying, what's the big deal? This is not, a big thing, whether he is or he isn't. Let's get together. And I'm saying, as a chaplain who works in an ICU at a hospital, like, y'all, this is a big deal, right? And I'm trying to examine, my first reaction was to tell my family, you need to take this more seriously. But then I also have to think, well, am I taking it too seriously? Because you're right, Sean, like every day for the past year and a half, it's been this thing for me. But that's not everyone's experience. So, maybe my experience has skewed me too far one way. Or maybe my family's experience has skewed them too far the other way. So I'm not sure, that this is a real life conversation playing out over the holidays, as far as whether or not we're going to get together for Christmas. And this new variant doesn't help that.
No, not at all. I completely agree with you on that. And I mean, and that's where it just gets so, I don't know, like even with recruiting, one of the first questions I get asked by, people that might be interested is, do I have to get the vaccine? And right now it's federally mandated that U.S. military personnel will get the vaccine. And I mean, the way that I've always kind of spliced it is every now and then you'll get those few and far between individuals that, like myself, that never thought the military was going to be a thing, and then boom, they joined one day. For the most part, I would say 95% of our recruiting comes from people that have had some kind of inkling of thinking, yeah, I might do the military. And I would say of those individuals, 75% of them refuse the vaccine. They don't want to get the vaccine. They don't want it mandated. And so it's hurting a lot of efforts and all kinds of workforces and jobs, especially. I know that at hospitals, there's a huge battle between nurses, that and other healthcare workers that have been thrown into the environment for so long that just haven't wanted to get the vaccine, whether it be they've already had COVID and, feel like their antibodies are fine, but it's definitely, like you said, Andy, it's the new normal, but the new normal is still very weird.
Well, and I talked to, so I was visiting with an elderly friend today from a church I used to go to, and one of her friends were there, younger lady, and this elderly lady's getting ready. She's actually getting ready to go into the nursing home because she had a bad fall, and she's going to go in the nursing home. But we were talking about the vaccine, and this lady said, I haven't been vaccinated, and I was kind of like, and this lady actually works in healthcare field, and I was like, really? And she said, I'm type A, I'm an A positive, and it, and this is a lady who does her research a lot. I mean, I trust this lady because she doesn't chase after. I've known her for a while, and she's just like, yeah, I've seen some side effects that it could cause with, and she has a history of heart disease in her family, and, but my nephew has serious allergies. And it's like one of the things that if you have what he was told by his doctor was, because he has allergies to eggs and he's lactose intolerant, and he's like, hey, there may be some negative side effects. There's a vaccine. They have a vaccine out there without, I guess whatever it is that causes allergies to flare up, but it costs like $100 to get. And so his place of work is actually paying for him to get, because he's in retail. And so he's in with the public all the time, and his work. And I just heard from him today. He just said, yeah, my work's going to pay the $100 for me to get the non, whatever.
Nice.
So, I mean, he's like, I've wanted to get the vaccine. He said, just, I don't want to take the risk, and so I think that, I wasn't as old as people think Matt and I are. We've had the vaccines of, rubella, measles, mumps, whooping cough, all that, we've had those. And we've went through these stages of saying, okay, you need to get vaccinated for this thing. And, I think there's some people who say, well, we don't want to get the vaccine because it's still in this phase of research and blah, 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 and all this other stuff. And I'm like, okay, I can see your point, and then I've read both sides on this issue, and some of these doctors that I've been reading, and I've read this from a few doctors. One doctor said, do you know why some of these vaccines that we came up with a long time ago, now we're getting people developing measles? We've got people who are developing mumps. I know that meningitis reared its ugly head, but what was that? Probably your freshman year of college, probably, Sean. I don't remember.
Mm-hmm.
But it was because a lot of these vaccines, because I mean, this is just the nature of any virus. They will mutate. I mean, this is something that we're going to have to live with seeing, and knowing that we're going to see variants of COVID for a long time. And I mean, it's hard to believe. We're still trying to make sense of 2020, and it's hard to believe that we're a month away from 2022, and we're still trying to we're still trying to cycle through everything from 2020 this year. And I was talking with a coworker of mine the other day about this. This year just seemed like it's been a wash almost, especially to us, like in education. I mean, because we're still reeling, we're still trying to balance out how this new, and it's like today. I had my first basketball practice with my team today. I coach younger girls, and this is the first time that my team has been at full strength since the beginning of the pandemic, because last year I had parents who didn't want their kids to play because of the pandemic. And I had these girls out on the floor, and the girls who I didn't have last year, I mean, they're out there and they're just kind of, and I'm thinking, long-term effects. I mean, these are things that we haven't even thought about, because, kids have been cooped up inside. They've been, hey, go do your virtual school. Hey, we don't go anywhere. We're not going to go to the gym, or we're not going to go to the pool, or we're not going to do the, and I mean, everything from physical stimulation to mental stimulation to, I mean, this thing has really, I think, thrown us for a major loop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and actually, I saw the other day, Family Guy has put out a cartoon about how vaccines work. I don't know if you've seen that or not, but it's quite funny.
Yeah.
But it's about 2 minutes, and it's really informative actually as well.
Really?
So, yeah, if you just Google like Family Guy vaccine, it'll come up. It's like a 2.5 minute little cartoon thing that they do, and it's really good.
So, what do you think this is going to do? And I was reading some stuff on CNN today, and they're trying to balance this out about how this is going to affect Biden's administration. I still kind of, I hate that this is still being politicized.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah,
to the point to where, I don't know if you guys heard 2 weeks ago. So what are we? We are now officially, we are 11 months into the Biden presidency. And his aide, Jen, what's her name, Psaki, she had said that she, yes, President Biden plans on running for re-election in 2024. And I'm like, why are we discussing this now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, because we're gung ho, we're attacking this problem head on and blah blah blah, and I'm just like, whoa, let's not start playing running for re-election politics, and we're not even.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this was kind of a knee-jerk reaction to the surge in COVID activity.
Mm-hmm.
Sean, you were going to say something. I don't know.
No. You're good.
Go ahead, Matt.
Well, I think that so what I try to do is when I look at like how a president is handling this pandemic or this virus is to try my best to understand how viruses work. Like you say, Andy, if the vaccines aren't as spread out, or people don't do the vaccine to the level that we need to as a population, they're going to mutate. They're just going to keep going. That's what they do. to try to understand how viruses work and put that kind of side by side with like what the administration is doing, whether that's Trump's or Biden's or whatnot, and see if scientifically the actions match what we know about the best way to combat viruses. And because that's all a president can do, right, is to say the actions we're going to take are designed to target viruses where they work, where they live, how they transmit, what have you. But the American people also bear responsibility for it as well. You know, we can't judge one man who sits in the White House and blame him for the pandemic, for gas problems, for supply problems, for all of our problems. The American people bear the majority of the responsibility for whether or not we get past this pandemic.
I think that's become the nature of the beast, though, man. I think that, and being somebody who's spent a lot of my life now studying history and studying, I mean, government and politics are my passion. And one of the things that I always point out to the kids, regardless of who the president is, red or blue, Republican, Democrat, they always look at that person in the White House and say, this is happening because of that guy. You know, oh, we have racial violence. Oh, that's because Trump's a racist. No, it's because we have racism in our society. You know, COVID, you know, as much as I'd hate to say, I think the major reason why Trump lost re-election was because of COVID. I mean, at the time, people didn't know how to respond to it. But I always get a kick out of these kids. I mean, I follow a lot of the kids on social media and through Snapchat and everything, and they always get a chuckle on, you know, at the Biden stickers that are being put on the gas pumps, like, I did this. And I respond back to him, I'm like, no, actually, he didn't do that. I mean, America is not a member of OPEC. Okay? OPEC is the one who's deciding to cut back on the supply or to push in the supply. And it's like people think we get all of our oil from the United States. No, we buy the majority of our oil from Venezuela, you know? And so it's stuff like that when like you mentioned, though, that we put this face on. Americans don't want to look at, like you said, accept responsibility for what's going on, you know? Yeah.
I lament the lack of critical thinking.
Well, yeah, and I don't know if you saw this or not 2 weeks ago, Matt, but I mean, when I'm diagnosed with COVID, and my kids are messaging me left and right on my Google Classroom. Well, how'd that vaccine work out for you? I was like, okay, first of all, be thankful. Thank you for being concerned about me that I'm not in a hospital being intubated right now.
Right.
Because I have been intubated before when I had my car accident back in 99. I know what it is. I know what it feels like. Okay. It's not pleasant. The vaccine kept me from being in that state because I'm not a vision of health, you know? And so it's stuff like that. American people don't want to take responsibility for the world around them. It's always that guy over there who's causing the problem. Oh, it's that racist, or it's that socialist. Oh, it's that Republican. Oh, it's that Democrat. When we can't take something so simple as our personal responsibilities as members of this planet Earth in making it a better place and instead of trying to get along with mankind, we're trying to see how much we can piss each other off the most. And this COVID thing is just one of those examples. And blame social media, blame whatever you want to, but at the root of it, it's us as people, humans, not just Americans, but as humans not taking responsibility for our actions. Sorry, I ranted.
Yeah. No, you're good.
Yeah. And I think you're right. I think that the tendency, or as you see it on media, is to label something, put a label on it right away so that you know whether you should embrace it or demonize it. You know, my son was talking to me recently about he's turning 12 and he's in middle school. So he's kind of waking up to not everyone is heterosexual, right? That there are lots of different gender and sexual identities out there. And so he's been talking to me about his friends. Well, so-and-so is this and so-and-so is that. And, you know, he goes to school near Cincinnati, an hour and a half away. So I don't know these friends at all. But, you know, I finally had to stop him and I said, look, Finn, you know, first of all, you need to know for your going forward that whether someone is lesbian, gay, transgender, whatever they are, if you know that about them, you know one thing about them. One thing about them. You don't know them, right? That is one thing about them. Now, the work begins of getting to know that person, who they are, what they stand for, what they believe, what they find meaningful, you know, all of these things. You can't just say, well, that person's a lesbian, and then either write them off or think you know them. And we have to get, I think, past that with our politics too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, especially because, I mean, looking around it, you know, identity politics is such a real thing right now. I mean, your political affiliation is, you know, held the leading part of some people's Tinder bio. You know, that's what people are leading with is, hey, you're either with me or against me. And I mean, it's a broken record at this point. But even, you know, going back, just growing up, you would see people kind of going at each other's throats, but it was always in a what's the better term for it, I guess, would be like in a somewhat professional kind of way. Like everyone knew that it was like, okay, well, there's CNN and then there's Fox, and we know that they're biased. Well, and then fake news started to really legitimately come from both sides, and but now it's like, you know, you could know a couple people that were, you know, super staunch Republicans and extremely liberal Democrats, and they could hang out and it'd be a good time. Whereas like now, if you see that, well then, if you know, let's say you're a Democratic celebrity and you get caught hanging out with a celebrity that's like goes to church or is kind of Republican, then, oh my God, you're the number one trend on Twitter. Did you see that this guy was hanging out with this homophobic, like Chris Pratt?
That's exactly what I was just thinking.
Is, you know, constantly berated in the media, not even in the media, by 13-year-olds on Twitter, I should say, that continuously go after this guy because he goes to church, and a lot of them they claim they don't like his church, and then recently he was people were all in a muck because of an Instagram post that he wrote for his wife, because they said that it was a shot at his ex-wife, which is completely untrue. And I just think when people get bored like that, so yeah, it's like now they've affiliated Chris and the people that hang around Chris as, no, you're no good. Like Mark Ruffalo was, you know, everyone's favorite. Everyone loved Mark Ruffalo. And then when he came to like Chris Pratt's aid, like, nah, dude, Chris is a great guy. I love Chris. Then they were like, well, fuck you too then. That's how we're gonna roll with it. And it's just we didn't used to kind of have that.
Mm-hmm.
That was
I think also that "fuck you too" then would be a great rebranding of the podcast. If you ever consider that.
Exactly, yeah.
My podcast,
exactly.
But it would be great. The voice of reason. Let's just get away from that. Fuck you too then.
Yes.
So yes, season 2. That's going to be our subtitle. The voice of reason. FU2. So
yes, 2022 is just going to be the year of it.
That's how we're going to rebrand it. And yeah, no, but
T-shirt.
If you read, and I've read portions, I have not read the whole book. Barack Obama's book, I think it was called It was My Father's Dream, or My Father's Dreams of My Father, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But there was this portion in the book that he mentioned this very thing when he talked about back in the day when, you know, Republicans and Democrats debate the crap out of each other and yell at each other on the floor of the House or the Senate. But at the end of the day, they go to the bar together, have a beer, they go to their each other's kids' wedding, or they have, meals or go on vacations together. And now it's just, like you said, Sean, it's just people lead with that. And, I want people to know me for my story. It was kind of interesting. Our pastor spoke on this yesterday, and he was like, what's your story say to other people? Whether it is if you're evangelical, or if you are, are you someone who is a caring person? Are you someone who is, tolerant, firm but tolerant? Are you somebody? I mean, what does your story say about you to other people? If you can't, I think there's just some things that, and I'm, call it a revelation. I think I've come to this realization probably within the last 2 to 3 years, because, it's taken friends. I mean, Matt's one of those. It's taken, my family members even just to say, hey, look, here's how it is, take it or leave it. And, I value relationship with people more than I do politics.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Matt, if you don't mind me sharing this, so when Matt and I were going through divorce, relatively, I was first and he was second. And Matt called me when he was getting a divorce, and he said, am I a jerk for yelling at some of my friends who say that it's not Christian or something to get a divorce? And just, I don't know if you remember that conversation or not, Matt, but I remember we talked for like 2 hours, and I just, it's just like you wear your scarlet letter and people don't look, look what like you said about Chris Pratt. Look at Chris Pratt going to church and this and that. Mm-hmm. Who cares? Let him go to church. If they don't, it's like some of the stuff that I've been around evangelical Christians who say, oh, that person is bad because they're drinking a beer, or they're, my dad always used to label people, people are going to go to hell because they drink a beer, they're going to be this or they're going to be that. I was like, Dad, you and I both know that's not what sends a person, Mm-hmm. If somebody wants to, whatever, but what is your story saying about you to other people? How are you? It's not about it's not about looks. It's about what you portray. Well, that's kind of it's what you show to other people. Mm-hmm. Am I somebody who is going to listen to you? I had a student who was going through a former student who was going through a bunch of crap this last week, and she was putting it out there, and I just messaged her on the side, and I just said, hey, you know what? I still love you. Things are still cool. You need to talk. Come talk to me. And that's the kind of attitude that we need to have to people. That at my house, I saw this Facebook post one time that somebody said, at my house, there's always, I can make you a cup of coffee any time of the day or night. I got a big couch and everything. We can come sit and talk and just, or if you just want to hang out. I think people need to know. We have to really, because right now humanity as a whole is going to hell in a handbasket, because we are becoming so self-centered that we're right, everybody else is wrong, I'm smart, you're stupid.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When I started as a chaplain 17 years ago, I was fresh out of seminary and was talking to a patient, and we got into this theological debate. I don't even remember what it was about, but I remember going to my supervisor with this experience that I had with this patient in this debate that we got into. And, and I remember, my basic attitude was, how could you believe that? That's, not what scripture says, and blah, 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 blah. And my supervisor said something that has stuck with me to this day. And he said, Matt, is it more important for you to be right or to be in relationship?
Oh, wow.
And I think about that, even now when I'm talking to patients, and sometimes a patient will go off on some sort of theological thing, and they'll be very fervent in their belief about it. And I may be just as fervent in my disagreement with them, but I don't bring it up, because it's more important for me to be in relationship with that person than to be quote unquote right. And Andy, I mean, you and I have had our disagreements, and we've called each other out and things like that. And I think that why that works is that for both of us, it's more important to be in a relationship than to argue and try to prove each other right or wrong, knowing that, it's not going to change anything if we, start debating. And I think you're right. I wish that our political leaders exemplified that. And I wish that was put forth as kind of just the baseline way you go about life with people.
Well, and I think that the idea of what a political party represents anymore, or a religious group anymore, is just what you just said. It's not about having relationship between other people and other Americans. It's about, like you said, I want to be right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't give a rat's hairy butt about what you think. I want to be right.
Right.
And it comes down to common decency. Looking out for your fellow man. I tell kids a lot when we study the Great Depression, and I tell kids this all the time. I say, if the Great Depression happened today, I mean, there would be rioting and looting in the streets. There would be, but back then, I mean, people looked out for their fellow man. People looked out for each other. People worked for each other. When the bank was, I read stories of when banks were going to foreclose on a farmer, his neighbor farmers would come with their pitchforks and shotguns and stand in front of the property to protect that guy, or you hear stories about, people doing soup lines and bread kitchens soup kitchens and bread lines and all this stuff about providing for your fellow man, helping out for your fellow man, and not, that poor bum's out of a job and they're so lazy and blah, 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 and all this other stuff, if we can't get past our own insecurities, our own egos, we're not going to go anywhere, and it's only going to become worse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think, Andy, you talked about, wanting to be right. It's not even, people don't even listen anymore or try to understand how you could come to the conclusion that you've come to, I think it's, I'm not a military guy. I haven't shot a gun in 37 years at least. So there's a lot about that I don't get, but I could listen to Sean and, understand to the degree that I'm able to anyway, like his life story and how it led him to where he is today. And, and say like, okay, I get it. I get how you could see life that way. If I'd had the same experiences, maybe I would too. But, even that seems a bridge too far in our society today.
Mm-hmm.
This has definitely been something that has weighed on my heart a lot lately, and it's hard to teach kids who are, out here in rural Missouri. The attitude that people have here compared to a Jeff City, Sean, or to or heck to a Louisville,
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about three different variations right there. You talk about your variations, there you go. The attitude of people in Louisville, what's your population? 200,000-300,000 probably?
Louisville?
Yeah.
I think it's like 400,000.
Okay. Jeff City, which is 75,000, Sean? Something like that?
Oh, not quite. Jeff City's probably like maybe 30 or 40,
okay.
Maybe.
And then you go to a Pike County, which I believe population of Pike County as a whole, somewhere in the neighborhood of 6,000, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Our attitudes of the people, and hence again, why we have this, another reason as to why we do this podcast is to open up people's minds to, to quote my father, there's more than one way to skin a cat. Okay. There's more than one way to look at a problem, to look at an issue and approach that issue openly And if we can't, the idea of consensus is a far gone cry. I mean, I laugh at it when I teach it out of my government textbook, and we just finished a chapter on political parties about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and there's this line that stands out bold in my mind in my textbook. It says, "Well, American people have a consensus on most of the critical issues in our country." And I'm like, no, we don't. We don't have a consensus on who are we going to vote for the winner of the Super Bowl or what. I mean, we don't on even the easiest things. So anyway,
well, gentlemen, was there anything else you guys wanted to go into tonight? I'd say I love sitting down and talking with you guys. I definitely got some good insight, Matt, from you as always. Never ceases to amaze me how Andy has actual friends out there. So
I mean, friends is a strong word.
That's
yeah.
Sure.
I mean,
Let's slow down.
close cuddling buddies maybe in college. We,
Hey. Hey, man's got to eat.
Well, ask Matt about what the meaning of Chewbacca is someday, and he will fill you all in about walking the Wookiee and stuff like that. So
I'll tell him all about it at the same time we talk about the old circle bed that is no longer there.
What? Oh, wait a minute. What?
There.
No longer
Okay.
there.
Yeah. We because of we're moving, so we were offloading some furniture. So the circle bed has found its way to
somebody who has a mirror on the ceiling in their bedroom.
Yeah.
Probably a mirror on the ceiling, and definitely the ghosts of my bedroom's past will haunt that poor woman.
My God.
Oh my God! Don't take a black light to it. That's for sure.
It looked like a Jackson Pollock painting or something.
Oh yeah.
Holy
It looked
cow.
like someone played paintball with it and it lost.
Well, and one other thing I do want to mention real quick, Sean, I was watching the Green Bay Packers game this week, and my favorite Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, who I believe is a total moron, they were talking about the guy. I don't know if you saw it. This is a real quick story. The guy who I think it was Devontae or Adams was running out, and he ran into one of the coaches on the sideline, knocked his beanie cap off, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Troy's like, well, what do they call those things? I've heard them call them skull caps and beanie caps. I've heard somebody call it a toboggan. And I just wanted to say, Joe or Troy, a toboggan is for one point in my life, I was just like, really? You're wearing a sled on your head, so.
Yeah. My wife
guys.
calls it a toboggan.
No, she doesn't.
She does. I went to the University of Louisville and University of Kentucky football game Saturday night, and it was going to be like 45 degrees or something there. And she was like, "Do you have your gloves?" "Yeah, I got my gloves." "Do you have your toboggan?" And I'm like, "What?" Like, I grew up calling it a stocking cap. That's what we all
right.
And yeah, she had to like go to the closet and get it for me. I'm like, the hell is the toboggan? That's not a toboggan. I had a toboggan as a kid. That's not it.
Oh,
The
that's
toboggan.
great.
Yeah.
Awesome. So
that actually.
I almost texted you.
No, that game, I'd say within the first 5 minutes they got all of the Aaron Rodgers
all the
vaccination
COVID
jokes in that they could.
Oh, we didn't even talk about that tonight.
That still is the biggest thing to me, is how someone can make a joke. That is a prime example of what the world is today. When you fracture your foot and then you jokingly say, now I got COVID toe, for then the world to just say, should have got the vaccine because now he's having side effects in his toe of COVID. And he
just to say, he took his foot out at a press conference and said, look, my I was like, my gosh. Oh, that was great. Yeah. Well, good times.
Yeah.
Matt,
Such
thank
is
you for
life.
so much for joining us tonight. And we
Yeah.
also we didn't get a chance to I saw Alex Ellison. I don't know if he's still on. I tried to stop by the district attorney's office today. He was not in, but thank you. Last week we had a lot of positive comments about that. Please support your local American Traditional Coffee. One of our
Yes.
proud sponsors tonight, Van Bibber and Sons, DJ service, and Matthew's Marriage Tips. Why not? I mean,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
absolutely.
Get them while they're getting hot.
Yep.
Yeah, guys, it's always fun. I always enjoy it.
Yep.
Absolutely. Thanks again, Matt. We appreciate you.
You bet. Thank you.
So next week, join us again, right, Sean?
Mm-hmm.
All
We
right.
will be here live. Should be Monday evening unless something crazy comes up. Again, make sure you check us out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, right here on Facebook Live, Google Podcasts, wherever you guys get your podcast needs. You will find us. Again, we are slowly but surely growing. So if you guys do see us in your timeline, please just give it a share. Don't even have to comment anything with it, but that share might just pique someone's interest. And the more we grow, the better this show is going to get. So thank you guys so much for your ongoing support. And we can't wait to be back with you guys until next time.
See you.